Available to Mr Maxwell if he so thinks. Question number 1 in the name of John Hayes.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. What steps is the government taking to build a productive and competitive economy in view of the contraction in the tradable sector and negative growth in manufacturing seen in the mid-2000s?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, a wide range of measures designed to build productivity and competitiveness, increase savings and exports, and increase productive investment. Much of the detail of this program is set out in the Business Growth Agenda documents, which detail over 300 initiatives that support jobs and assist businesses to become internationally competitive. And I would recommend to all of the Parliament that they read those documents because it is a thorough and comprehensive program. I had been hoping we would get some suggestions from the current Labor leadership contenders about good economic policy we could add to it, but so far none have eventuated.
Supplementary question, John Hayes.
What evidence has he seen of improving competitiveness of New Zealand businesses?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, New Zealand businesses have done very well over recent years, given the headwinds of an elevated exchange rate, a domestic recession induced by the last government, the global financial crisis and a serious drought earlier this year. But as I've gone around the country, I've had the same experience as I'm sure all members have, of companies telling us stories about how they've been able to innovate, how they've become more flexible and more adaptable. And yesterday I received the Global Competitiveness Report, which showed New Zealand has risen 5 places in its ranking on competitiveness to 18th in the world, still too low, as I'm sure the member would agree. This does, however, for the first time put New Zealand ahead of Australia.
Supplementary question, John Hayes.
Speaker, what areas requiring further work were identified in the Global Competitiveness Report?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the report identified a couple of areas where I think they do need actually a bit more information about what is happening in New Zealand. They referred to the supply of infrastructure. Well, we have one of the better planned, more certain infrastructure projects in the developed world, fully funded and rolling out, despite the fact we've been at it 5 years, for a further 5 to 7 years. Secondly, we were rated low on capacity to innovate. Now, I think we should test that conclusion with whoever puts the index together, because we see plenty of evidence around the country that our businesses can and do innovate, and certainly a substantial and consistently growing government investment in innovation.
Supplementary question, John Hayes.
What progress can the Minister report on growth in the manufacturing sector, and particularly compared with the manufacturing sector's performance in the mid-2000s?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the manufacturing sector has been the beneficiary of some political attention, including from opposition parties, so I thought I would just check the facts on this. There's an index called the Performance of Manufacturing Index, actually a globally used index, and at the moment it stands at 59.5. Any value above 50 shows growth. Now 59.5 is among the highest reading in the world. All 5 of the sub-indices are showing growth, including the employment indice at 53.1. So I thought, let's compare this to when apparently manufacturing was going quite well. In 2008, the PMI for manufacturing was 35.9, the lowest value in series history. And I presume this was the result of the accumulated effects of the supportive policies of the last government, where it hit the lowest level ever in 2008, and now it stands at the highest level ever.
Order. Supplementary question, Honourable David Parker.
Is the Minister aware that the index that he has just quoted is dominated by the increase in construction manufacturing out of Christchurch, and that in truth Manufactured exports out of the primary sector are lower than they were in 2008 in real terms and lower than they were last year as well.
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, well, I'd want to go and check the assertions the members made because I don't know for sure whether they're true or false. But it does seem odd that a party that says it represents working people thinks that a job building a house is not...
Order, a point of order.
The Minister of Finance has said he doesn't know, and I think that's a sufficient answer. The rest is just political.
The member doesn't want any further development of the answer, then I'll accept that on this occasion. Is that a supplementary question? Supplementary question, right, Honourable Winston Peters.
If the objective of the government is to build a productive and competitive economy in view of the contraction in the tradable sector, as Mr Hayes so wisely asks, at what point will the government do something to stop the rise in our dollars, which some economists say will go to 90 cents US, or will it still persist with loans to value lending aimed at the hyper-housing market of Auckland, but which punishes, I said in 2014, which persists right around the country, even though there's not a housing crisis in those parts of the country?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, look, I know the member has a real depth of knowledge on this topic, but I think we should try and get at least a pretty clear factual base. I think 6 months ago, I think the member's contention was reasonable, that it looked like the dollar was heading to 90 cents US, but actually since then it's dropped from the mid-80s, around 84 cents, down to 77 or 78 cents, which is actually not a bad place for the New Zealand dollar to be. So I'd have to say at the moment I don't think there is a problem to which we need his kind of solution.
Question number 2. Lei Fa'a Mulia Asanati Loli Taylor.
Malo au pito, Mr Speaker. Langi lau